All right, I would like to pull that motion and second back. I'm going to give chance for Chuck to go over the bill one more time. And we got the bill in front of us, we got the testimony in front of us, and then I would like to allow Vice Chairman Stefan to, able to share his amendment. So did we rescind the motion in a second? Okay.
Well,
Chuck, go ahead, and why don't you give us an overview? You had some time to look at 161. And also, I might ask Matt, this is the same bill as we had last year. FedEx was wanting an amendment, but I want to just work this bill without that FedEx amendment. If it goes on the floor somewhere else, that's fine, but I believe they were wanting to add weight, and I think we ought to allow this to work before we get too much weight, or leave it to the wisdom of the body. Chuck, go ahead, and why don't you do a quick overview again?
Okay, thank you, Chairman, members of the committee. So the first section of the bill, Senate Bill 161, from Amazon, dealing with personal package delivery devices, is a section on definitions. You'll see subsection D, lines 17 through 20, defines personal delivery device, and we had that discussion about the weight last meeting, and you'll see there it means a power device operated primarily on sidewalks and crosswalks, intended primarily for the transport of property on public rights of way, does not exceed 150 pounds excluding cargo, capable of navigating with or without the active control or monitoring of a person. And then we have a definition for personal delivery device operator, which is also, I think, of significance there on the first page of the bill. And then section 2 sort of discusses how these delivery devices are supposed to operate. They're authorized to operate on any sidewalk or crosswalk, public highway of any municipality, but that's limited for the purpose of gaining or regaining access to a sidewalk or crosswalk. They're supposed to yield all vehicles, not unreasonably interfere with motor vehicles or traffic. They are not to block public rights of way, obey all traffic and pedestrian control signals and devices, and operate at a speed. There's a speed limit on them that does not exceed a maximum of 6 miles per hour. There's also a requirement that they have a identifying number on them, and also a telephone number for the entity that is actually also supposed to be provided in Braille or an auditory recording. They have to be equipped with a system that enables them to come to a controlled stop, enables active control and monitoring by the operator. And also they have to have the ability to avoid pedestrians, pets, and other obstacles, animate or inanimate objects, with or without active control by the personal delivery device operator. Subsection C, they have the right-of-way obligations and responsibilities of a pedestrian under Kansas law, except that they're supposed to yield or safely navigate pedestrians, bicyclists, other obstacles, wheelchairs, as a pedestrian would, and only cross a public highway within a marked crosswalk or within an unmarked crosswalk at an intersection. They are exempt, and this is one of the, I think, main things that Amazon was looking for. They're exempt from motor vehicle registration requirements, and they are not to be considered a vehicle or motor vehicle under Kansas law. There's that provision for an insurance policy, general liability coverage of at least $100,000 for damages arising from their operation. There's also a provision regarding lighting requirements on these devices if they are being operated between sunset and sunrise. The requirement that they have the ability to determine proximity of other objects, an audible warning system. They are not to be operated to transport hazardous material. That's in subsection H on page 3. And there's a definition of hazardous material there. Section 3 is kind of note because this is sort of a provision that pertains to local governments. Section 3, lines 8 to 13 there on page 3. And I believe that this was sort of, if I recall correctly from the testimony, and this was a matter that was of some negotiation between Amazon and some of the conferees. But that is a provision there that pertains to local governments. Section 4 is an amendment to one of our vehicle statutes. Basically, it just provides there's an addition for electrical vehicle supply equipment on page 2. But the primary amendment here is on page 5, lines 26 through 28, that motor vehicle does not include a personal delivery device. And that also, you can see that again on page 7, bottom of the page. The definition of vehicle does not include a personal delivery device. The bill would be effective on July 1st, 2021, if it was passed. And that is basically what the bill does. So be happy to answer any questions.
Questions? Do we have any? Okay, not seeing any. I'm going to turn it over to Senator Stephan. Do you have an amendment?
Thank you, Chairman. Yes, I do have an amendment. We have copies available.
I think they've been passed out.
Oh, they do, great. It's literally one of the simplest amendments ever. We added 3 zeros. And again, from yesterday, experience in other business sectors where there's lots of moving parts in close proximity, $1 million liability policy is very standard. And I think would serve the public well for that to be instituted here. So I do make the amendment that we increase the requirement for the general liability insurance policy coverage from 100,000 to 1 million.
I believe we added 1 0 to $1 million.
Even easier than I thought.
Okay, we have a motion. We have a second. Okay, do we have a second? Senator Peck, or Senator Holland seconds. Senator Dahl, you got a question?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Will this have $1 million, will this have an impact on other delivery systems like DoorDash or, these other things that have come new because of COVID? Would this impact that because they can't afford $1 million? But I could see where you're coming with on this, but I can't. Would it have an impact on that? That's the question. I don't know.
You want to answer that, Matt? I know you're Amazon, but I mean, we had this conversation.
Matt Hickam, Hickam Public Affairs, representing Amazon.com. Amazon doesn't have a position or a preference on the general liability insurance increase. However, $1 million would put, I was told $1 million general liability would put Kansas quite a ways outside of the norm. All of the other bills that have passed dealing with this, $100,000 is typical, but we have no position on it.
Go ahead, Senator Dahl.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Matt, in your opinion, would this impact like DoorDash and those kind of businesses like that? I don't have a problem with the $1 million
You know,
at all with you guys.
I can't comment on DoorDash, but, you know, from a theoretical perspective, if there are small startup technology companies trying to get into this space, in the delivery space, and it could pose a difficulty for smaller companies entering a sector.
Okay, further comments? Senator Holland?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. No, I do support this motion. I want to make a couple comments. Number one, I know in my companies, our professional services firm, we're not even transporting stuff. We have $1 million general liability coverage. And to me, the $1 million would ring true. And I do appreciate Senator Dahl's comments about does this impacting their businesses. To me, as I look at the language, this is explicitly just for folks, you know, like Amazon that have these personal delivery services of the mechanized pedestrians only. And my guess, quite honestly, is that when you look at your current local delivery services and people who are doing that, my guess is their coverages are probably above $100,000 anyway. So this to me would more level the playing field versus putting those folks at a disadvantage. So I do appreciate the amendment. Thank you.
Yeah, further questions or comments? Senator O'Shea?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I do like the idea of raising it. I wonder going from 100,000 to $1 million. I think in my mind it'd be more ideal to do a jump maybe somewhere in the middle. So I won't support it, but I would support somewhere more in the middle. Thank you.
Can I ask some knowledge of an insurance guy? I know you, I don't know if this is your field or not, but my recollection with commercial insurance, because this would be business insurance, I think the minimum policy that I've ever remember buying is 600,000, but pretty typical $1 million, isn't it?
Mr. Chairman, you are correct. Generally, you're looking typically $1 million and up, but yes, you can get $500,000. But the premium rate is so low for the coverage. I mean, liability coverage is one of the best buys on the market. And I don't sell this, so I can vote on this. I'm not going to profit or benefit from Senator Steffen's motion, but I appreciate him helping the insurance industry. And by the way, just for information, I don't know if Senator Steffen knows this, and maybe some of our freshmen do not, but anytime a person pays an insurance premium in the state of Kansas, 2% of that goes to the state of Kansas. It's an insurance premium tax.
Yeah, I mean, to me, I think we're really not talking about big dollars. I could be wrong, but I've bought these policies before. My recall is about 600,000 minimum, but I don't know if you could get 100,000. So I'm kind of, if you guys want to go in between, that's up to you. We got a motion and a second on the table. Senator Straub.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just have a quick question. I would assume that Amazon is probably self-insured.
You want to answer that question, Matt, or if you know it?
It's a question that I don't know. But they, as I said, a $1 million general liability policy, they wouldn't have a problem with.
Thank you. But this bill would apply to any company that would have a personal delivery device. So it sounds like the $1 million is not out of question in business terms, but is that $1 million policy, is that per device, or is that for the whole entity?
That's a Chuck question, I believe.
Chairman,
I think it'd be overall, but go ahead.
Chairman, members of the committee, so the language is an entity shall maintain an insurance policy that includes general liability coverage arising from of 100,000 for damages arising from the operation of the personal delivery device by the entity and any agent of the entity. So I I would interpret that to just be, one policy, whatever it is. And if you look at the definition of entity, that is on page 1, that's lines 12 to 15. You know, that's, I guess, relevant to this as well. But just from looking at the language, I would think it would just be, a general liability insurance policy that would be obtained by that entity in that amount.
To answer your question, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. That does answer my question, and that's what I assumed from the language. I think most individual auto policies, and I realize personal delivery devices are not considered automobiles by definition, but don't most auto policies carry coverages of at least probably 300,000 to up, to $1 million or more?
Yeah, there's minimums, I believe. I'm not an insurance guy, but I think there's minimum of 300,000, or there's some lower minimums that they have to keep, and then you can buy umbrellas that cover even more. It's just normally in business, you have at least, it depends the kind of business you are. Most people carry a 3 million. It's not that much. I think a 600,000. It depends your business, but I've seen them start at $300-400, and a lot of it depends the business and the risk, because that's what sets your premiums. But I've seen, it could be, this could be a few thousand. I would say that's my guess. But if you're going to invest in equipment, I'm guessing you're probably. Most of the businesses would have even more than the $1 million, my guess, because if there's damages, they're trying to protect the payout, because when they hit that $1 million, then the business would be on the hook for the rest, and insurance cheap. That's what I think. If it was me, this kind of technology, I'd probably have more than $1 million. Other questions or comments? Not seeing any. We got a amendment on the floor. We got a motion and a second. So all in favor, please signify by saying aye. Against, nay? Passes. Okay. Do we have a motion on the bill? As amended. Senator O'Shea. Second by Olsher. Any questions or comments? Senator Holland.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I do appreciate the work that Senator Stephan with the bill, but especially what Senator Stephan put on this. I'll be voting against this amendment, and just my own perspective, whatever it's worth. Mr. Chairman, I just read something this morning in the paper where the state of Kansas right now, their seasonally adjusted unemployment rate, it's back to pretty much pre-COVID levels, 3.5%. But over the past year, our state of Kansas has shed 68,000 jobs. And so basically the number of jobs that have disappeared in this state is almost 5% since a year ago. The thing that really bothers me with this bill is, number one, this is disruptor technology. Make no mistake, more jobs will be lost that would employ Kansans as this technology gets adopted, and it will spread like wildfire. This is just the start. But really, and please understand, technology disruption, for the consumer, ultimately it's good. Workers pay a price. And being a technology guy, I like technology change because I think it helps consumers. But my real problem with this bill is that I think it creates an unlevel playing field. Specifically, it's allowing Amazon and other firms that want to get into this basically not have to acknowledge that these are in fact vehicles. They don't have to pay a tag on them. They don't have to, in essence, pay for the infrastructure they tear up. Because that's what they do. And it may sound kind of weird, but I mean, obviously, whether you're directly taxed by your city or not, everybody with a sidewalk, if they have these running up and down, they are subsidizing Amazon's business model by this legislation not requiring them to be considered vehicles and being appropriately tagged. And at the end of the day, why I view this more harmful is because when we think of all of our local delivery services out there, okay, the Uber Eats and everybody else that does this stuff, okay, they're driving around in vehicles that are tagged. They're driving around, that they have the commercial licenses, the things they need to deliver. So to me, this puts our local workers, local delivery services at a disadvantage. I'll be voting against. I appreciate the committee's patience with my explanation. Thank you.
Okay. Any further questions or comments? Senator Stephan?
Thank you, Chairman. I appreciate Senator Holland's comments. Is there an amendment in there anywhere?
We are now past the amendment stage. But if we're on the bill and there's a motion as amended to pass it out, so if someone wants to run amendments, we can do that on the floor. But did you have other comments? Okay, is there further comments? Not seeing any. All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Against, nay? Okay, it passes. Does anybody want to be recorded? If you do, just tell Michael and he'll record you. You can call division. Okay, we have division. All in favor, raise your hand. All against, raise your hand. Okay, it passes. And if anybody wants to be recorded as no, just let Michael know. Okay, now who wants to carry this bill? If there's someone on the committee who wants to carry the bill, I would be more than happy to let them. Even Democrat. Think about it and let me know. We will be working the unemployment bill on Monday. So have your amendments ready. If you haven't already talked to the revisor, I know Karen knows how to talk to the revisor, but others, get your amendments in. So.